Good morning, everyone. This is Ahmad Moradi. Welcome to our Thursday sessions we hold every week to educate, inform, and talk about some of the subjects that we feel it's important to our clientele and to our service providers and to our partners around the globe. Today, one of the areas that I wanted to talk about, which we have been heavily involved in the last decade and so forth, is content delivery network. One of the areas that we want to talk about is from its past to present and going to future. Being a catalyst in the service providing that we do. Good morning, Vijay.
Hi.
Welcome to our presentation, and thank you for having you in here. For screencasting right now that we are doing on CDN, on Content Delivery Network, and our host again today is going to be myself, along with Vijay and Maddie, our broadcasters. So let's talk about Content Delivery Network from our personal experience at NetStairs. At NetStairs, as we were doing all kinds of media delivery and media middleware through our technologies that at those years back in early 2000, we had filed with patents and so forth called IV8. IV8 used to stand for Intelligent Video Streaming Servers. We took the two S's, overlapped them, and made it into 8 for a loop and infinity, and we called it IV8. IV8 became our middleware, and it was the foundation of how we learned about CDN. So at the time that we were at the Streaming Media Magazine shows in both New York and in San Jose, in Silicon Valley areas, we used to do a lot of broadcasts, both from podcasting to on-demand to live streaming. We went through these phases, and as we were going through these phases, we realized one of the areas that we had to spend a lot of time with and learn and work and collaborate was in what is known today as CDN. At that time, the king of the hill, which still is, was Akamai. So at the event and the show, Akamai came to our booth, we met, and we discussed about how integrating IV8 services into CDN delivery. Obviously, Content Delivery Network became a large market. We have some visual and description of explaining some of these features, fundamentals that you see throughout the world, and we hope you use that as a way of understanding how we are planning to work into a world of what we call ICDN. Now, I want to remind you, ICDN really doesn't exist. We are working toward that progression with several players around the globe, including Amazon, AWS team, GCP guys, IBM Bluemix, and DigitalOcean, and some of the other service providers. But our goal has been always looking at the fact that we have to bring the most seamless experience to customers from viewing. Now, with that, if you look at an example of a CDNs that they are available in the marketplace, CDN presents a very growing market, actually. It is estimated, according to Tech Target magazine, it is a vast market. It's growing and it continues to grow. But one of the things about broader CDN service market that is evolving, enterprises, corporations, businesses are beginning to understand that they either have to build their own CDN or they need to rely on somebody else's CDN service for their content delivery. So content delivery is made of distributed servers that delivers web pages, all types of content, and so forth. But probably one of the areas that CDN is very good at is video, because that it represents probably the most complex process of what we have to do, especially in real-time streaming. So when you look at a CDN, typically a service provider creates a hosting place, and the hosting place is what they call origin servers. And these origin servers normally managed and hosted by a third party, like a content aggregator. And a content aggregator puts the content in different servers, but having different people from different parts of the world to connect to origin, it creates blockage because those machines and those servers have so much capacity, so many number of sessions and so forth, and they can only handle up to so many number of hits. And when you're doing mass volume of delivery, then that means we need to resort to services that companies like Akamai or Limelight or Cloudflare or IBM and so forth have positioned their servers in different data centers around the globe. And these servers are known as edge servers. So the CDN servers, call it the edge or CDN server, connects to the origin servers, as you can see. So when a request comes from a guest or a client out in West Coast or somebody in another part of the world, then they automatically, instead of coming to the origin server, they connect to the closest geographical IP address that it connects as a cache server. And the cache server connects to origin and receives those signals. And now this receives and stays here. The advantage of that is that if there are other viewers from that region coming or from other viewers in different parts of the world, then subsequently they only connect to that local server, and that local server replicates itself into this kind of services. CDN is extremely important in the market and the delivery because we are all working now with live, with podcasts, with HTTPS contents, with on-demand, with OTT, and many other variations of delivery. And these delivery systems have now aggregated themselves to their own ecosystem, such as Netflix, that they manage their own, or working with partners like Google Cloud, GCP, and be able to accommodate the service. So when you look at list of CDN providers in today's market, you find there are advantages and disadvantages. And there are companies that they have selected different vendors based on their decisions, corporate needs, requirements, goals, management, and objectives. But let's talk about some of these companies so we can get a general idea. Akamai Technology is the granddaddy of all, and that is the one we normally as NetSters have been over 10 and a half years technology partner with them. And we work very closely with their services and so forth to connect all of this digital media room into their CDN. We also work with other CDNs in the same way, such as Limelight and other organizations. So one of the areas is that every one of these groups, they offer different services. Like, for example, Amazon has its own CDN now, and IBM, after acquisition of Ustream, they decided to get into the CDN market. You got CenturyLink, you got Cloudflare, you got Fastly, Imprevo, some of the other companies. Verizon is very strong. And they have different pipes, as you can see. So you can see in here, they got a terabits per second at 60. They have 240,000 servers or nodes in 130 countries. So from the time that we used to work with them very closely at the 105,000, they have expanded. But they are really one of the areas that it's extremely important to understand is how do they manage DDoS migration. Without the DDoS, CDN will not exist because otherwise the attacks will happen constantly. So therefore, they all require, as one of the provisions, as one of the requirements to have, is DDoS services. These DDoSs are normally either outsourced or built in or acquired by a company that they provide those services as part of their CDN. Then you have companies like Level 3 and other organizations like Swisscom, Telecom Italia, and other CDNs that they work around European market or other parts of the region like Telecom Malaysia, that they resort to third party as their own private labels, although these may not be their own CDNs and they may be outsourced into Akamai. Example is like YouTube, that when you are experiencing and sending streaming from YouTube Live, you're actually sending it through Akamai CDNs. So this is one important aspect that you need to know. It's a growing market. It is going to be, in 2017, it was a $7.5 billion And by 2022, it is going to grow to a $30 billion industry. So as you can see, there are several areas such as focusing on security, compression, video, web optimization, and data duplication features. Now, these areas becomes extremely important for these companies because you got to look at your customer base, you got to look at where your databases are coming from, your point of entries, which normally they know or they call it as POP, as point of presence, or creation of that as POE, as a point of entry, where you all of a sudden have the ability to send and receive and create replications for your services. The challenge of CDN throughout our experiences has been working, let's say, with Akamai from the early days, was from video compression. For example, there was a time that Akamai was using a company called OnStream in South Florida to do their video compression algorithms for their encoding services, while NetStairs at that time had CID8, that we would do everything intelligently with different bit rates, different encoding, different formats, and make that available into a server where player would automatically pick up through our own intelligent algorithm the right bandwidth, the right format, the right setting, and it would, without any latency, deliver the content to that user. Those services and those patented technologies now that have been utilized as part of the industry-wide services that we have seen from Wistia to Akamai, that they build their conversion engine, they call it. The conversion engine basically gives you the ability to take one-to-many formats. And then essentially you take those videos and you store them in a storage that they provide. And this storage gives you the ability to create a pointer called resource locator, such as Akamai, or a URL that you copy and paste that and you integrate that into your various services from your web pages all the way to these digital media rooms. So a lot of these researches that has been done, it shows that the media delivery, it's expanded and expected to become a compounded growth, because media is the most complex part of CDN delivery. And also it is the most challenging because we are dealing with it every day ourselves. We see the protocols and so forth, and also with the rapid changes that the industry brings. These changes that is coming from various codec, from various industries, from various publishers such as IEEEs, ITFEs, or W3Cs, with the advancement of even new JPEG, XL, and different kind of resolutions and different higher resolution, higher quality, 5G, all of these factors will bring the media delivery into a projected compounded value of a 6.5% annual growth rate between now to 2022. So expect fast growth in CDN market. One of my challenges as a developer and as an engineer working as chief architect and working with our team in NetStairs has always been integration of CDN to our services. And learning from that kind of experiences, the part that we were very cognizant about is getting into the DDoS. Recently, as NetStairs escalating itself to become a fast-growing company, we have also been victimized of DDoS and attackers and hackers. We normally have been ahead of them, thank God, and at the same time, learning from their footprints and creating systems and protocols that not only helps us, but also helps the industry, brings us to a layers of what we call ICDN. ICDN stands for Interactive Content Delivery Network. And this is where NetStairs spending most of its infrastructure and planning and design and working with different engineers in different groups to make that enabled, is because typical CDN services resort to what is known as push technology. The push technology is where you take the content, as you just saw earlier from our presentation, that you have a location with your content stored, And now you're delivering this based on different requests, and this request goes to these edge servers, and now the user gets a seamless viewing of those content. The problem is, if you see this is a one-way street, the arrow only comes one way. In a real-time group video chat or digital media room or collaboration, broadcasting, communications, and so forth, this arrow actually becomes bidirectional. That's the problem. And one of the challenges of this is that you look at this aspect in here, and if you don't see a bidirectional venue come in, that means that you only have push technology, which is known as CDN. Now, ICDN requires building a two-lane highway in addition to that push technology. So that means you need to build pull technology. Pull technology is really challenging because it has not been done at the scale, other than some of the organizations have done it in different topologies. And because WebRTC is new, it's a technology, and it is being deployed around the globe in the next 5 to 10 years, WebRTC becomes the new bedrock of what we call ICDN. But with that comes an ancillary of products, challenges, engineering difficulties, and obstacles that we need to manage. For instance, let's take a look at an example of an ISP. In a location that you are from, okay, and you're subscribing to a service provider, chances are if you go and do a little speed test on your bandwidth, you will find your download or your downlink pipe is significantly larger than your uplink. Your uplink is narrow, and they always give you a smaller amount, and also they put buffer in their uplink into their routers, in their switches, that when you reach to certain level, then it basically actually disrupts you and drops you because they think you're doing something. To build the next generation of this technology with WebRTC standards, many companies are taking many initiatives in different areas. For instance, giving you an example, Twilio has built one of the largest network on WebRTC platforms. Temasys in Singapore has built a network to deliver to content on WebRTC. Companies in Canada, they are using different topologies from mesh to FSU to MCU to accommodate different kinds of delivery systems. But we now are at the juncture of learning and experiencing and building different strategies to see what works. But here is the grand view of what we call ICDN. There are two layers of ICDN. We look at it from a customer and market point of view. We have clients that they already have content at their CDN level, and the only thing they need is to add the letter I to their CDN. We made that very seamless through these protocols and this technology use of Pixel, because by simply placing a copy and paste of an ARL and a link, automatically the content can become alive, it can be broadcasted, it can be shared, and it can be created in a different kind of a catalog where real-time communication requires, like e-learning, for instance, where we are working for teaching English classes, where classes requires different levels and so forth. But real-time engagement, as opposed to streaming, becomes extremely important because that teacher has to listen in real time and has to watch the student's mouth, the pronunciations, and so forth in order to be able to make the corrections and help that student without latency. CDN traditionally has solved part of the latency because by traditional streaming, we do have latencies. And we have done that ourselves, so we know that is part of the inherited service. CDN expedites and speeds up that latency and makes the distribution easier, but the letter I has to create the group sessions. But these group sessions are, imagine these rooms are being broadcasted a content from a CDN to millions of these rooms. These millions of rooms are now watching the same content with different peers communicating, and collaborating and sharing content within their own environment in that setting that we call digital media room. So if you have content that already sits at CDN and you like to add the letter I to it, the process is relatively simple. We set up a testing room for you. We integrate and show you how that content can be shown and shared without moving the content from the CDN and maintaining its rights management and so forth, and presenting it right in here for delivery. The other part of it is where we are seeing companies, service providers are not so happy with their current CDN services, and they're looking for either a less expensive alternative or a better way of managing content. And that's where we again come in and work as middleware, since we have worked with multi-layers of CDN partners, and we can learn and understand the requirements of that client, being a client-centric service solution provider. As system integrators, what we do is we assess the requirements, the needs, the geo-IP, the presence, the volume, the data, and so forth, and then we subsequently make proper recommendations and use of some of our services or third-party services or integrated into hybrid services. All of these matters becomes clients' solutions based on their vision, mission, goal, and objective. Giving you again some general idea, one of the schools that we are working with, they are opening up 10 channels of education for a school of medicine, starting from gastrology. And one of the area is that these classes will be available online and will be broadcasted along with a series of content that will be sitting in some of these side panels. These side panels are programmable. So Maddie, if you can click on one of the asterisks and show our audience what we are referring to, then you see that the content can be cataloged and presented right in here. And it's a basic HTTPS SSL requirements, because we only deal with secure document. And then by storing those documents into our configurations and so forth, we make that available. Now, here's our challenges that we are going about, because it doesn't exist, and we want you to be aware of it. This journey is going to take us to a platform that the ICDN is going to be a multi-layer cloud service that it already connects to different CDNs. It can bring content from different CDNs into one room. It can support multi-players. We have built various kind of players in here behind the scene. So when you bring different content, and these experiences have been resulted from our IVA and our CIVA and our background, where we were doing a lot of media streaming and live streaming and so forth, or building our cybermartial video email for delivery to millions of users or email recipients. So we took all of those experiences and we built it into the ICDN as infrastructure. Where we are going, we are planning to build these as a point of entry with partnerships such as Google, where global GCP presence gives us a point of entry. That point of entry gives us the I for the ICDN platform. And then we have several options for our clienteles. We can either take their content from their existing CDN, integrate it for them, or we can port or migrate their content into a new pricing model, new delivery way, because one of the things, for example, we like with GCP is using their fiber optics and their data centers. This $30 billion data center, I'm working with GCP team and with WebRTC team and Chrome team, has given us the power and the ability, along with many open system colleagues that we have worked in the industry, given us the ability to become a perfect, suitable middleware company to accommodate the crossovers between the current needs, such as CDN, and going into interactive channels, interactive contents, interactive relationships. And this interactive requires what we call RTC, and that's where we use WebRTC for that platform. So in short, we want to tell you that organizations that they are working in areas where, as you can see, attacks such as DDoS or just the simple transition session viewing for users. These are all part of the process. And we obviously, being a registered user of TechTarget, with the permission of TechTarget, we display some of this content as a reference, and you can simply go to those sites that you see on these links and feel free to read about them. And with that in mind, we'd like to conclude our presentation on the CDN and migrating into ICDN, where we feel that becomes the future of things we do. Another part that is extremely important for us to know is working on the VR and on AR side of this equation, because these are all packets of data to us, and the delivery and experience must become seamless. So along with that, now we are working with a group of team of engineers out in California and in West Coast to integrate and bring some of the VR experiences into the ICDN, where you can actually build a world and then create that communication and then create your own ICO currency in that world with the blockchain and so forth. So some of these things we're going to be sharing with you soon and giving you some of the sneak preview of how things are coming together, where you can get a better vision of how interactive content delivery, which requires push and pull technology, is totally differentiated from the CDN, which is a push technology. And taking our eye and adding it to the CDN, then gives everyone the ICDN. And if you like to add all of those, again, we can integrate. But keep in mind, we work with many groups, such as third parties like Bitmoving's integration into here, Kaltura's, again, Limelight and Vistia, Sprout Video, just to name a few of these companies that they're all beginning to emerge as competitive in the CDN market and trying to compete with the tier 1 players. Any comments, any question? I'll be more than happy to answer. Otherwise, thank you for the time and attendance and listening to the CDN story and see the differentiation of what we are working on as ICDN and how we are connecting it into the CDN market.